I think it's recording. Let's hope it's recording. Hi guys, I'm Aurora. I'm doing choice theory and reality therapy in groups. And I found a little Gandhi quote because I thought it was fitting. So here we go. And excuse my scratchy throat. I have some water, but I've been dealing with allergies here. So key concepts for choice theory and reality therapy is if choice theory is the highway, reality therapy, therefore, is then the vehicle that will deliver the product. It's the doing part. William Glasser came up with choice theory, and Robert Wobeldine, I hope I'm saying that right, came up with reality therapy, and these two are credited as the founders of choice theory and reality therapy. Choice theory teaches us that you are the only one who can control your own behavior. Choice theory provides an explanation for human motivation, whereas reality therapy, again, is the delivery system of that. So, so if choice theory teaches people that the only person whose behavior we can control is our own, therefore we are responsible for what we choose to do. And with that being said, choice theory and reality therapy spends very little time working in the past and keeps things very much in the here and now and in the present. So Glasser hypothesized that people choose the behavior that has led them to therapy because it is always their best effort to deal with a present unsatisfying relationship, or even worse, no relationship at all. Glasser believed that the core problem most of us experience is an inability to get along with others or to have a relationship with someone else. So choice theory and reality therapy teach people about their 5 basic needs and how to more effectively meet those needs to satisfy what they call their quality world. These needs are survival, love and belonging, power, freedom, and fun. Our behavior is an attempt to control our perceived world. Our quality world is perceived. It's unique to us. It makes up the context of our own needs. So our perceived world is just for us again. It's not actually reality, but it is for us. So CT states, CT being choice theory, states we always have control over what we do. And the premise of this is understanding our total behavior, which is made up of 4 separate but distinct components: acting, thinking, feeling, and physiology. So we're all trying to behave in a way that satisfies this quality world with those, with these total behaviors. Next slide. So again, emphasis on connections and interpersonal relationships by accepting responsibility for those total behaviors, which again are acting, thinking, feeling, and physiology. And to do that, here comes reality therapy, is the WDEP system. And this is to help satisfy those basic needs, the wants, what our wants are, doings and directions, self-evaluation and planning. So the book used a really good metaphor, and I couldn't think of a better one. So think of a car. A motor represents our 5 basic needs. This steering wheel allows us to steer the car in the direction of our quality world, our perceived quality world. Acting, thinking, feeling, and physiology are the wheels. Acting and thinking are the front wheels. They steer. It's a front wheel drive car. Whereas feeling and physiology are the back wheels, which have to follow the front. These 4 cannot be independently or directly steered any more than we can directly choose how to feel or our physiology. And that's, again, where the WDEP system steps in. This is the vehicle on how to get people to those perceived wants better. So the role of the group leader. The group leader, if you're using choice theory and reality therapy, is very active and direct in the group. The role of the leader is going to teach people about the basics of choice theory and as a way to help them understand why they behave as they do, so that you can start looking at changing that. Leaders help group members understand they have some control over their feelings by choosing to act and think differently. Leaders are skilled at questioning. Questions are some things that we have been taught to not put forward too much. However, in this theory, they really use a lot of them, and they're very skilled at this. So, and it helps to assess what it is group members really want, how to get there. Leaders encourage members to evaluate their current behaviors. Is what you're doing helping, or is it hurting you? Is it getting to you to what you want? Not really, if you're probably in a group. It helps members make more effective choices for themselves. What do you want? What do you need to get these wants? And it helps members to formulate and implement a plan for change, the WDEP system. So the W stands for wants. It assists clients in discovering what they want, what they have, and what they are not getting. The doing and direction part assesses current behaviors to determine if what they are doing is getting them what they want. The self-evaluation confronts the consequences of the behavior and to allow members to judge the quality of their actions for themselves, which is really good. And then planning, you come up with a plan. It helps members identify specific ways to change their failure choices into successful choices. So multiculturalism and diversity, from what I found and read, Will Bolding, I think I'm saying that wrong, went on a few-year-long walkabout, as my husband would say, being from Australia, to see how he could better this system to be more encompassing and of multiculturalism and more diversified. So reality therapy assumes that the 5 basic needs are universal. Every human being on this planet needs to meet these 5 basic needs. And the ways in which these needs are expressed depend largely on the cultural context. So Yalom pointed out that the group experience sheds light on prototypical interpersonal responses because a common stimulus releases many different inner worlds responding to the same stimulus. We read in Yalom that there could be 10 of us in a room and experience the very same thing, and we'd all have a different perspective on it. Leaders need to allow space for a diverse range of behaviors to satisfy different cultural contexts, and members are able to make their own evaluation of behaviors using the self-evaluation part of the WDEP system and the degree to which their needs and wants are being satisfied. So that's up to them. And the members can also find a balance between retaining their own ethnic identities and integrating some of the values and practices of the dominant society that they live in. So that's how that works. Strengths and weaknesses of the choice theory and reality therapy. Some strengths were that it emphasizes accountability. It is skillful at questioning, and it is action-oriented. There are some weaknesses, and I agree with some of them, most of them. Group leaders, depending on your own personality and how you see this, could become somewhat of a moral expert, or could be seen as a preacher. And that doesn't always work for everyone in a group. Discriminations, racism, sexism, homophobia, heterosexism, ageism, disabilities need to really be taken into consideration because these are things that can and do limit people from getting what they want. So you need to be leaders need to be very aware of a real environment and social forces that operate against people that can't be changed by behaviors. Last weakness is that it's very focused on cognitive functions, not feelings or beliefs. This theory really doesn't focus on the past. Like I said, it really keeps you in the present. So it's recommended for brief intervention, crisis counseling, very good for educational settings, teenagers, middle schoolers, correctional institutions, you're having to look at your own behaviors and self-evaluate, drug addiction clinics and rehabilitation centers. Joe and choice theory and reality therapy. Joe feels that no one has ever been able to help him with his anxiety. This is his want. This is what he perceives, that no one's been able to help him. However, his behaviors tell us that he's actually hesitant about asking for help, and he doesn't know how to go about and do that and ask for that help. So, according to Whippoldine, the 5 basic needs, along with specific wants, are unique to each person, and they serve as motivators or sources of all human behaviors. So, we're going to want to teach Joe about the 5 basic needs, and we're going to want to see how those are perceived by him. Reality therapy emphasizes a plan of action. Thus, looking at maladaptive patterns of behaviors are replaced by a different action, as opposed to the one just trying to stop what they've been doing. You don't want to just try to stop Joe from being anxious. You want him to self-evaluate why he's choosing to do that. Whippoldine stated that because behavior is a choice, it's within our power to change it, to feel better. However, giving someone the choice to feel better can be frightening, because if you accept it, you no longer blame society or whomever for that problem. And we see that with Joe. We see Joe state, I guess this group crap is not going to be able to help me. No one can help me. So maybe he's afraid to take this chance. And breaking it down for Joe in this plan, this WDEP plan, might alleviate some of that fear and anxiety he holds on to. So let's move on. Sorry guys. There we go. Joe wants help with his anxiety. He wants to be able to connect with people. Choice theory and reality therapy are going to teach Joe about those 5 basic needs. And they're going to ask him things like, what do you want that you're not getting? Group members are challenged by leaders and other members to evaluate their current behavior, to formulate plans for change, and to commit to following through with that plan. After you talk about your wants and your perceptions, well, let me back up for a second. Counselors will want to connect members' wants to their needs, such as, if you had what you wanted, what would you have? Kind of almost like a miracle question, right? And then you're going to want to ask about perceptions, because these are slightly different from those specifically relating to wants. You're going to, like Whippoldine found, users of reality therapy encourage clients to discuss feelings in tandem with the actions and thinking over which we all exercise the most direct control. So with that, with those perceptions, when you're working with a group and you ask people about their perceptions as opposed to their specific wants, it's helpful, because if arguments arise, such as they did with Anna, Kyle, and Joe, the group leader can take a step back and remind everyone that we're just talking about viewpoints. Viewpoints are specific to each person, and not what is actual reality, in a sense. And as Corey found, again, group members or group leaders are going to want to draw out a commitment to counseling. Because if you can't get that commitment, Joe's always going to be afraid, and he's going to run or leave or blame everyone in that group and the group leader for not being able to help with his anxieties. As we saw, the therapist will want to work with Joe on bringing his feelings into the here and now of the group by asking questions to help Joe to see that his behavior is not working for him. An example of this is Joe pushes away Kyle's suggestion of journaling or trying a mindful technique, such as breathing. How the group leader would want to stop and say, Joe, how does this behavior help serve you? How does not taking someone's suggestion help you get over your anxiety? What is it you want from this counseling group? Or how do you see yourself if you don't feel anxious? The therapist, this choice theory and reality therapy was interesting because therapists will want to do things that are unexpected, such as use humor. Although I think you would maybe try that anyway in a counseling situation, possibly not with certain things, but with some. And you want to keep judgment and behavioral choices suspended, of course. You want to find and focus in on strengths of Joe's and listen for themes and metaphors because they come up a lot. And to be authentic, of course. Maybe do a little self-disclosure. That always builds trust. So here we see Joe and the WDEP system. Again, Joe wants help with his anxiety so that he can belong, survive, enjoy life, feel empowered to be alive, and feel freedom to try. So that's where we're going to connect Joe with Kyle and Anna to experience some new behavior. Direction, Joe and the counselor will want to discuss and have a clear understanding of where Joe sees himself going. We want to know where he's at currently. And then we want to kind of get him focused on, well, if this behavior isn't working for you, what can we do instead of that? We want to focus on what Joe is doing and bring awareness to the more conscious level so that he can begin to evaluate and make changes for himself. And that leads us into self-evaluation. Counselor will assist Joe in further evaluating his total behavior by asking questions to help stimulate Joe to begin self-questioning. And then comes planning. Joe will need to be able to self-evaluate his own behaviors before he's able to co-create a plan with the counselor for a more fulfilling life. This is the teaching phase. This whole part is the teaching phase, where the counselor will be able to help Joe discover more favorable behavior choices to get him what he actually wants. And Joe will be able to try these behaviors out within the group. Again, this is where we want to connect Joe with Kyle and Anna so that he can experience those behaviors in a safe zone. Grief and loss and metaphors. Like I said, this theory wants you to do a little bit of the unexpected and use humor or really focus in on metaphors and themes. Counselors can learn to listen for and make use of client-generated metaphors to benefit the process of the grief therapy. Counselors can also offer metaphors to clients to further the meaningful process of the grief and loss. You want to process those feelings, assess personal strengths and resources, think differently about the loss, cope more effectively, and make meaning from those past experiences into new ones. So again, that's the WDEP system working there. I had a really hard time with some of these names, so bear with me because I'm pretty sure I'm not pronouncing them properly. Jegelsson, Shoba, and I'm not even going to try that one. I'm sorry, guys. But they found that CTRT helps the client to take charge of their own choice and be in control. So with grief and loss, typically you're talking about a loss of a person or maybe a thing or moving. I'm in the process of moving right now, and I almost feel like I'm losing a part of me with leaving this house. It's just where we really started our family and things. So I've had a bit of a grieving process, very minimal, light scale, but I don't want to take away or make fun of how that is very light as opposed to someone could be actually dealing with some grief right now. Using choice theory and reality therapy's quality world, what one really wants, can help a grieving client bridge the gap from the quality world that they see in their head to the real world using narratives or storytelling and metaphors. By using the narratives and the storytelling and the metaphors, it gives the client space in the here and now to bridge that gap of having experienced loss, but being able to make meaning of it in their current lives and to move forward with that, with the memories of that loss and how it can help promote them in their future. Jagelsson found that relocating the loved one in the quality world by acknowledging the past, reframing current reality, and focusing on a key need of love and belonging and journeying with the client to the future by linking the client's personal goals to the new placement of those dearly departed in the quality world. I thought that was really powerful, actually. I was like, I could use that. And that's pretty much it for choice theory and reality therapy. I actually really enjoy this. I do believe it has some weaknesses, but I like that it's an action based therapy, and it can be used in many settings. I often ask myself if the crying out of frustration due to having so much work to do is going to get me anywhere, or what can I take a step back and how can I behave differently to get myself to where I want to be? Because crying doesn't help, but often is occasionally needed by me. So here are my references. I really did enjoy digging more into this, and I will probably dig further into it as I continue my growth with becoming a therapist. So I hope you guys have a great weekend and a good week. Thanks, guys.